What's up, everybody? Happy Friday and welcome into the Fantasy Football Game Show, brought to you by Front Yard Fantasy here on Better Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my Fun Friday co-host, Tim Wright. What's up, Tim?
Oh, drinking beers and having a great time.
Guns out, suns out, and a beer in the hand. Is that a Coors Light in a Heineken koozie?
Yeah, we like to mix things up here.
That's a power move. It makes it taste better. Guys, joining us from the land of Coors, we've got our friend Nate Polvogt here with us today. For those of you that do not know Nate, you really should. He's one of our greatest friends here and an incredibly nice guy. And on top of that, an incredibly sharp fantasy football analyst. You can find his work as a writer over at Fantasy Pros, and he's the host of the Dynasty Diehards podcast on Razzball. Nate, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, man, thanks for having me. It's like the universe knew I was about to be on FYF because it finally stopped raining for the first time in 48 hours here. The sun came out right before the show, so clearly I'm supposed to be here, and I'm stoked. It's a great way to round out the week, my man.
And bring in the weekend. And this is officially, I think the first 30 minutes are the end of the week, and the second 30 minutes are the beginning of the weekend. So we're going to ramp up. And the second half of the show is going to be a party.
Yeah.
Course number 2, baby. We got some people in the chat ready for today's show. Scott Fish in here saying Joey's sick on the day Tears of the Kingdom comes out. Joey?
Oh, he said herm.
I've been I've been sitting here with this sitting on my desk, staring at me all
You've just
day.
been licking it.
Just waiting. Sniffing it, tasting it, shoving it in various orifices to see what results I get within my body. So far, nothing. But I'll join you later, Joey, playing that game. Also, Scott Fishing, you're saying, P.S., this game is delightful. We're playing all day while working. We got Hal in the chat. What's up, my friend Hal? Welcome in, my friend Albert in the chat for a fun Friday mock draft, saying hello, everyone. And Craig in here says, what's a horse's primary concern when voting? A stable economy.
That tracks. That tracks.
Craig and his jokes, man. The best jokes.
Every day. We got Scampers in here, our favorite chat cats. This beautiful Friday afternoon, FYF. Jay and Dustin, both hyped to see Nate on the show. Scampers as well. And Dustin going with the hashtag Team Nate for today's mock draft. We got Joey in here, says, I'm just sitting in the private StreamYard waiting for Scott to show up. Yeah, he's not actually sick. He's just sick of Scott's shit is what Joey is. And because of that, he's sitting over there waiting in that room until he shows up. Guys, we're doing a mock draft today. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this board. Before we get into this, though, a couple reminders. First and foremost, if you're not already following our guest, Nate, you need to go and remedy that right this instance. He's on Twitter at Nate Polvogt. It is right there below his handsome face on the screen. And you can find it in the description of this YouTube video if you're watching on our YouTube channel. If you are, thank you so much. And hit that subscribe button, Front Yard Fantasy. The notification bell will make sure that you do not miss any of our shows at our new old time, 3 p.m. Eastern every day, Monday through Friday. You guys ready to get into this mock draft?
Let's do it.
I think so.
Let's do it. We got a Superflex Startup Dynasty mock draft today. The roster is as follows: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex, and 1 Superflex. We've got 3 bench in there. Now, in a normal Dynasty league, of course, this would go much longer. But for the constraints of an hour, we're going to cut it off at 12 rounds. If we have time, if this goes quick, we might add a round or 2 at the end. But that's all. It's all dependent on how quickly everybody makes their decisions here. I'm going to go ahead and start it. And Tim has the first overall pick in this draft. Tim, where are you going with this one?
Who should I pick? I hadn't thought about it at all. I'm just kidding.
Patrick Mahomes. No shock there, but he's still your 101 over Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts.
Yep, at least for the next couple of years. Any startup dynasty, Superflex, it's Mahomes. That's it.
Nate, are you with Tim in this? Is Mahomes still your 101 in Superflex?
Oh, 100%. Look what he did with basically a bunch of half-ass wide receivers last season. I mean, the dude's a magician, and you can't argue with it. And it's not like he's old. So yeah, I mean, I think for the next 4 to 5 seasons, he's probably still the QB1.
Now, the question I've been running around with in my head, and we'll probably see this player come up later, is if Mahomes is the 101, and we're expecting somebody to step up into that role. They're spending draft picks on wide receivers, but all the news is going towards Kadarius Toney. Should we be valuing former first-round pick Kadarius Toney, who's now going to have a full offseason with the Chiefs, a little bit higher than we have been? I'm in the 10th round of a startup draft right now, and he hasn't gone yet. There's other players on the board like Keenan Allen. That's the range. Do you think Kadarius Toney should be higher value because of the upside being paired with that quarterback?
No.
Dude,
we haven't. What have we seen from him? Scattered production when he's been healthy.
Exciting.
And he looks
wow.
Right. I mean, he adjusted his gloves right before he caught the ball. That's cool, right? But no, dude, what have we seen to move him up boards?
Yeah. I think it's just an optimism thing. It's just a hope thing, right? He has the draft capital. We've seen flashes of big plays, and he's on the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. That's what you're hoping for. But you're right. It is a lot of hope. Tim, are you optimistic at all?
I think it'll be a situation where since I drafted Mahomes, I would probably take the shot on Toney probably a little bit earlier than most people would. I would go for that stack. Okay.
Whoa.
Huh.
We are going to 1 second. Yeah, we are going to pause this draft, and Swamp clearly did not manage that player. So we are going to just put a reasonable player in there. That way it's not throwing off the entire draft.
Perfect.
There we go. Hopefully it doesn't do that going forward. Justin Jefferson at 2 is fine.
Yeah.
Somebody's been reading Andrew Cooper's stuff, man.
Getting a little bit too excited about Chicago.
Yeah, right.
Whoops. All right. Well, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen going off the board. I feel like this time last year, Josh Allen was the consensus 101 quarterback in Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like Mahomes is back up to that position. Nate, do you think there's an argument to be made for Josh Allen sitting in that 101 spot still, or is he a step below Mahomes pretty clearly in your eyes?
I mean, I think he's a step below Mahomes. And I think especially because we've heard him this offseason talk about how he needs to become more of a true passing quarterback and stop rushing so much. And you take away that rushing upside, and it's going to bump him down a little bit. And especially if you look at that receiving core, I mean, they've got Stephon Diggs and now Dalton Kincaid, but Gabe Davis isn't super reliable. And Allen's going to get it done, but I still don't think that you can put him over Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it might get close, but you can't do it.
Nate, you're on the clock.
Oh, yep, I am. I know what I'm doing. Simon, don't ask me questions when I'm on the clock.
That is my go-to move. I do it every time. I don't know why. I think it's subconscious. I see the name up there and I'm like, oh, that's a good person to talk to. I should talk to them. We got Scott in here saying they put a bittering agent on the Nintendo cartridges so kids don't swallow them. I wouldn't lick it. Is that true?
No.
You heard it here first.
Scott is not kidding. Oh my God, that's if Scott is kidding, then he got incredibly lucky because there's a lasting bitter chemical flavor that came off on my tongue whenever I licked that game cartridge.
Oh boy.
Scott, was that a true fact, or did I just lick that because of a lie and it did happen to have some weird chemical flavor to it?
He's just sitting there laughing his ass off now.
No. Oh my God.
Scott said it's 100% true. 100% true. Well, we got it right there. Also, Dustin, you're saying, well, this is not how I expected things to go. Yeah, the chick pick threw things for a loop right there, but we got Swamp back in here now. Scamper said Swamp going to take Marvin Jones next. Yeah, we got the strong dynasty start of Chigaconquo Marvin Jones.
Bold.
It's everybody's dream.
Also, we got Joey in here saying, "Hey Simon, they put a bittering agent on my butt too. Want to come over?" Yeah, I'll be there right after the show.
Man, I'm starting to wonder how close all you FYF guys are. This is interesting.
It's just the trust.
Very.
We help out when we can. And Scampers saying, "This is the content I expect." We answer the tough questions here. Ooh,
interesting.
Kelsey in the first round. Nate, it's hard to argue with the fact that Kelsey has been top of the position for 5-6 years now. But what do you feel about taking an older tight end like that in the first round?
Not gonna lie, I considered it with my pick.
Really?
I know he's getting older, but dude, he's not slowing down. And like the way that he plays the game, he doesn't get hit a ton, right? Like he works the middle of the field. He's the one doing the hitting. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is throwing him the ball, I have no issue with him going in the first round at all.
Unless they're playing the Chargers, in which case Derwin James takes that personally.
Yeah, right. Oh, Lamb at the turn. That's an interesting one.
Lamb, I think.
Ooh, Joey's sticking with it. I love it.
Joey is sticking. I thought about Richardson there, but with the value of with the number of quarterbacks that went off the board in the first round, I get my pick at any running back and any wide receiver that's not that top tier of Jefferson, Chase. I'm pretty happy with that turn right there. Nate, where did you end up going? You took Jalen Hurts. Where is he in your dynasty rankings? You got him as the 5th quarterback off the board. Is that about where he is for you?
I've got him 3rd. I've got Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. And Hurts could jump Josh Allen this year, depending on the season he has.
What would it take? Would it take, or is that a stupid question? And the answer is more points than Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, it's more points, but I want to see him continue doing what he did last season and maybe improve upon his pocket presence a little bit. And I think if he does that, he'll probably jump Josh Allen.
That makes sense. We've got a lot of I like the color coordinated teams whenever people just draft the same color throughout the through sections of the draft. I really wish these websites wouldn't color code the players because it does influence like what I want to do whenever the next pick comes up, whether I like it or not. Like what would be the most aesthetically pleasing next pick?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Like, God, if I take yellow here, it's going to ruin everything. Yeah, I'm late round QB only because red's my least favorite color.
I draft defense first round because it's so pretty. It's a nice purple.
Oh, man.
We were talking a little bit about Lamar Jackson earlier this week on our tier show. I see that he went to Gary there in the first round, kind of near these other quarterbacks. Nate, is he closer to that top tier of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, or maybe the next tier of like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Tua?
I've got him at the top of that Lawrence Fields Tua tier right now. I was doing a startup last week where I actually took him at 107. So, I mean, I like him. I think he's going to air the ball out a lot more this season. I think they've given him the weapons to do that. And I think this could be similar to his MVP season stat-wise and fantasy-wise. So I have no issue with him going where he's been going in drafts, which is pretty consistently the first round, ahead of guys like Justin Fields, Deshaun Watson. I think it's a fair place. I've seen him going ahead of Joe Burrow a lot of times. And I think that's fair. I think the talent's there. And I think if you are going for upside in a quarterback, which is what we should all be doing with these first round picks. Simon,
I know.
I'll tell you what, but it's fine because I already knew who I was going to take there. Ooh. But I think if you're chasing upside with a quarterback, which is what you should be doing these first couple of rounds as you're taking players, you've got to go after Lamar Jackson because the upside we all know is there. And this is a new offense. And I think people forget now he's going to be in more of an air raid style offense. They're not going to just run the ball down everyone's throat.
I'm with you. I moved him up a little bit to closer to that tier 1 with the contract for the Ravens because the reason he was down there was that was the uncertainty for me. But you're right. It's the upside that makes me want to put him in that tier with Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. You're telling me you would be shocked if Lamar Jackson was the number 1 overall quarterback? No way, right? Like,
right, exactly.
We know it can happen. So, and I think it's more likely than maybe even a Justin Herbert to happen. Like we've seen it from Lamar. So I like the call out that we could see something closer to his MVP season this year. That's about where I sit. Tim. Look at that Dolphins turn right there. How you feeling about Tua and Hill?
Oh, I feel pretty good about that. I mean, the strategy changes every single time you jump into one of these drafts. But I mean, I'm betting on Tua again. I mean, Waddle and Hill finished, I think, I think 2 and 9, or Hill and then Waddle, obviously 2 and 9 PPR receivers last season, and they didn't have Tua for like 3-4 games. The sky's the limit for this offense, and if that's the case, Tua's going to be near the top 2. I'm really happy with that.
And last year, the Skylar Thompson was the limit for some of those seasons. So hopefully it's even better this year.
Yeah.
Nate, grabbing Cooper Kupp right there. I just drafted Cooper Kupp in a startup dynasty draft as well. And I felt really weird about it. Like, I wasn't sure. He's probably got a better chance than most players of being the number 1 overall PPR wide receiver this year. But that Rams team is kind of scary. Looking further than just this season. How are you feeling about the future for Cooper Kupp?
I think the future's bright. I think that McVay's smart enough he's either going to take a quarterback next season in the draft at some point in the first, second, or third round, or maybe, Stetson Bennett, Georgia boy, just like Matthew Stafford. I know he's an older prospect, but dude, if he can sit behind Stafford maybe 2 seasons, maybe that's what McVay is looking at doing. Maybe he's looking at Stetson Bennett being that guy. And I by no means say I think that is that going to happen necessarily, or will it go well if it does? But it could be. And I do think McVay has a plan. And Kupp's one of those players. He's just so talented. As long as you get the ball near him, he's going to make something happen with it. So while the Rams might suck in 2 or 3 years, Cooper Kupp won't.
I'm with you. Even when the Rams sucked at the beginning of this year, Cooper Kupp was getting something
crazy
like 15, 19 targets. Like, it was something disgusting. It was gross.
Yep.
I see we got Craig in here saying, so I go on auto draft and Simon doesn't change my pick. That's because you got Jalen Waddle. You should be thanking auto draft for making that pick for you. They killed it for you, Craig. Also, Joey Wright loves your turn, Tim. Says incredible turn, brother.
I'm happy with it.
Ancestry test pending. Once those results come in. Have you guys done any of those?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
23andMe or DNA or Ancestry.com. How was your experience?
My dad found out he had a sister he didn't know he had.
That's wild. That's life-changing.
Yeah.
That's like what you see in the commercials. That doesn't happen to anyone.
And what's funny about it is it wasn't even my grandpa's kid. It was my grandma's daughter that she never told her other kids about.
That is wild.
Was right? Just like a super weird kid or something? And she's like, well, we're going to keep you under the stairs for a bit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, she finally came out from under the stairs, did an ancestry thing, and here we are today.
Wow. I knew you were going to take him, Simon. I knew it. I saw him sitting there.
That's a nice little Seattle wide receiver stack.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. I know they're on the same team. Maybe it caps some upside, but I love both of those young wide receiver prospects. And with the value sitting there at wide receiver, I didn't feel like reaching on some of the quarterbacks sitting there. So we're going to see how this plays out. It's kind of gross being on the turn and waiting again to see what quarterbacks make it back. But that's what mock drafts are for. I loved the value at these other positions, and I want to see what I end up getting at quarterback.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be like a Jimmy G build.
Yeah, the classic Jimmy G build.
I mean,
Jimmy G, Sam Howell.
Yeah, what's your preferred dynasty build? Yeah, the G Howell. Jimmy and Sam.
This is how you win, guys. This is how you win.
Zero RB is so 2022. Jimmy and Sam is all the rage in 2023. Now,
that's basically zero QB.
Gary going opposite. Gary's going zero flex with his team. He's got 3 quarterbacks and a tight end. But I don't dislike the team. Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, CJ Stroud, Kyle Pitts. Tim, what are your thoughts on this strategy so far? It seems risky to spend so many early picks on quarterbacks, but it is super flex.
I don't really like it. If I'm being honest, that stresses me out way too much. I generally like to draft balanced. In Superflex, I'm willing to go 2 QBs first round, depending on where that cutoff is. I felt comfortable at that turn, snagging that quarterback and just waiting for some other players. But starting off triple at a position like quarterback makes me a little bit nervous. We'll have to see how the rest of the team builds out, because I don't know.
I think that's where I'm sitting. I don't think you can argue that his quarterback or tight end position is weak.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to see how the value falls at running back and wide receiver. It's going to shake up somewhere, but if he can sneak some decent high upside value later at the wide receiver position, because running back value falls. I'm not worried about running back value. There's older running backs that are going to be sitting there. Nate, do you I know JL's like Tim generally tends to prefer, if possible, a more balanced approach. Sometimes value dictates you go elsewhere. Do you tend to prefer a more balanced approach, or do you find yourself leaning towards a specific position?
I try and stay as balanced as possible. I mean, obviously you see things happen in a draft where it's like, crap, there's a run on running backs. I better get one of those top tier guys before I miss out, and I can't wait. But I try not to panic and just kind of, let the board tell me what I should do with my team, I guess, if that makes sense, where it's like, okay, quarterbacks are starting to come off, but I'm not worried because I've got a guy in mind. So I'm going to stick with running backs, or sometimes I'll panic depending on who I'm drafting with. Like if I'm drafting with the guys from FYF, I know I'm going to lose anyway because you guys are all so freaking smart. But I guess to answer your question, I go with a pretty balanced build. I try and keep it even, and I like to have good starters. You know, I don't like to be overloaded at one position. Like I don't need 3 quarterbacks in the first 3 picks. I get there are people who love to do that. That strategy works for some, but I just try and keep my stuff balanced.
My biggest weakness across dynasty teams is probably my bench. So when things go well, I tend to have really good dynasty teams, and when injuries start taking my teams off the rails, it tends to tank them quite heavily. We got JL in the chat saying, hi, friends. What's up, John Luke? Welcome in. And JL saying, I'm obsessed with my start. I like your start too. Yeah. JL and I both playing a little bit of QB chicken here. So we'll see who breaks first. So Nate, you're sitting with one quarterback as well, waiting on that second guy.
I tend to do that. I mean, when you're looking at Superflex, I think people forget you don't have to start a quarterback in that Superflex. And sometimes you're better served if you can get 2 high-end tight ends that are going to have a ton of volume. You're better off maybe starting that tight end, especially if you look at the format, it's tight end premium. I just think I'll get another quarterback, but I always go a little bit later in drafts for that, like 9th, 10th round, somewhere around there. There's usually some value there. Guys that you feel safe plugging in that have a consistent floor.
We got Scampers in here. Says, holy smokes, Eckler in the 5th. Bravo, Tim. That's what I'm talking about with that running back value. It falls.
And I was more amped for Mark Andrews, honestly. Eckler was just like a consolation prize there, but I was so nervous that Andrews was going to slip. And now I don't have to worry about tight end. Tight end, I'm fine. And then running back, like, this is a dream for a balanced build. I love it.
Yeah, you started out 2 quarterbacks and then high-end wide receiver, high-end tight end, high-end running back. 3 players that very arguably could finish number 1 of their position. That's what you like to see. We got Nate or Jay in here saying, Nate, you're a high-end tight end.
Ooh, thanks,
gotcha.
Jay.
I feel like I'm going to bring it up. It's years later, but I feel like we didn't really acknowledge enough when it happened, the tight end with the last name Butt. Like we kind of all we just acknowledged Jake Butt and we're like, haha, and then moved on with our lives like it wasn't like a glitch in the simulation or something like a little bit too spot on to prove that this is all scripted.
You know how names were like back in the days, like, oh, you're Samson or Smith, like your family was a Smith. What do you think his family was?
They were the paddlers. They're the paddle makers, maybe.
Well,
Jake the paddle maker, and paddle maker was not a great last name. It's too long of a name.
The paddle makers accidentally made the waddles.
Let's see.
Oh, good Lord, Tim.
I've got 2 picks, and I don't want any of these players. So someone else want my picks?
Just take Derrick Henry. Do it, you coward.
Just do it, you coward.
I was considering it. I definitely want this player. I'm going to add Rachaad White.
Yes.
I'm excited about Rachaad White this year. He's near the end of a tier for me where there's a drop off. There's still players I have in that tier, but
do it. Take Addison. Take Addison.
That's exactly what I was doing, Tim. Is I've already got JSN for the team that I've built so far. I think Addison actually makes a lot of sense. We've got some young running backs that I have a couple years from, and I can build around these wide receivers that are young but still can be in win now mode. Like I think Addison is, of the rookie wide receivers, the most win now adjacent. And JSN can step into a limited role in like a slot role right away.
Yeah.
So
I think I don't know if you saw the comments from Kevin O'Connell, or whoever it was, the Vikings earlier in the week, where they said, look, we're going to feed Addison, because when they put their prime corner on J-Jeff, we're going to feed Addison. If they switch it to Addison, we're going to feed J-Jeff. These guys are both going to be fantastic fantasy assets.
I'm excited. Are you, Tim, are you bought into the Twitter's excited? Are you excited with him on Addison?
Yeah, I mean, I can't read too well, so Twitter doesn't work for me. But yeah, I mean, you've had a lot of really great guests on that have explained some of the hype in ways that I can understand. So yeah. So I do like it. I think it's a great fit. I'm excited to see how that goes. The only concern I might have is what Kirk does. I imagine they'll want to keep him, but that's, I could see him bouncing around to a couple other teams. So that's the only cap I'd probably say for a dynasty receiver like that.
What if they get Trey Lance, Tim?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. Never thought about that. That's a good one. I probably feel honestly a little bit worse about both of them. I haven't seen it enough from Trey Lance to really make a good assessment. I don't know how accurate it's going to be, but I think the talent's there. Obviously, first round, so I think it could be okay. But I would probably tamp that down a little bit. The expectations for even Jefferson and Addison.
Yeah, I just think it's so interesting how everybody's so high on Trey Lance, and we've seen him start 4 games.
Yeah, right.
Like he could be great. He could be Zach Wilson. We don't know.
My hype for him is all hope based, because I fell in love with that man on draft night. Whenever he got drafted, he stood in front of the podium and his eyes sparkled at me, and I was smitten. I was like, I am a fan for life, Trey Lance. So I'm hoping it works out, but I'm with you, Nate. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of hope tied to his value right now based on limited snaps. And it's not like we have a ton of college tape to go back to either. He has very limited football snaps at all as a starting quarterback.
Well, and at North Dakota State. It's not like he even played at a Power 5 school. So sometimes those guys pan out. I mean, look at Carson Wentz. He's had a career.
Yeah. Mr. Scampers in here said the Butts were championship paddle boat racers. Big cabooses on them. That solves the mystery. And Joey down here saying Tim risked a lot taking Andrews in the 4th, expecting Eckler to fall to him in the 5th. The gamble paid off, but too risky for me. Yeah, you should have gotten Eckler in the 4th. That would have been wild. Also, Jorge in here had a question for us. Jorge wanted to know Kittle, Lance, and Addison. Who do you prefer? So in Superflex, based on the draft board, it looks like Kittle went first. I would take Addison out of those 3. Nate, which of those 3 would you take?
Addison.
Addison?
Absolutely Addison.
Or actually, Lance went first. They went Lance. Oh, yeah. Who is
Lance? That? Yeah.
Fruity
Lance,
Duck
Kittle.
took Lance, and then Kittle went, and then Addison. Tim, what about you?
Addison probably. I just wanted to say, Nate, I'm straight up terrified of your team right now. That is so good.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's going to be. I tried to go win now, and I think I have an opportunity at that. But I think you have a really solid build right now.
Well, dude, I can't believe how far down Mixon is falling.
Yeah,
he doesn't. Not only did they not address running back in the draft or at all in free agency, really, they let Samaj Pirine go. So now all those touches he was losing to Pirine last season and the passing work, it's all Mixon, man.
Yeah, I am blown away every time I do one of these startup mocks, how far running back value falls, how far you can get the current top tier running backs because they're 27, 28. You can, like Miles Sanders, I know we're not excited about him, but Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders on the, 6-7 round turn. Yeah, that's absurd. That could be 3 top 12 running backs without anyone being surprised at all sitting down there. I love that value. Oh, the player you wanted fell?
Nice.
You a Zay Flowers fanboy, Nate?
Oh my God, so much. So much. For the same reasons I love Lamar Jackson right now, man. And like you're giving him this young receiver that's a deep threat. We know Lamar Jackson can huck the ball. Now there's somebody who can get deep and catch it that's not Devin Duvernay or and I like Rashad Bateman too. People think because I like Flowers means I don't like Bateman. I like them both. And I think they're both going to be stellar. And an offense that could see 150 more throws than they have over the previous 3 or 4 seasons under Greg Roman. So what's not to love?
Yeah, the only concern I get is I get worried about the competition there because of the players that they added. But if Zay Flowers is who they drafted him to be, then he should beat out Odell Beckham Jr., Devin Duvernay, and even Rashad Bateman.
Yes.
No problem. So are you expecting that sooner rather than later? Do you think we see that this season?
Well, I think it's going to be a 1A, 1B situation with him and Bateman to start the season. And I think we may very well finish the season like that. Zay Flowers is probably going to be more of that wide receiver 2 role this season. So I guess to answer your question, I don't necessarily think he takes over Bateman this season, but I think the volume is going to be heavy enough in that offense that they can both eat.
That makes sense. We got J-Wall down here commenting more on that running back fight. He said Henry could be the RB1 this year, and I got him in the 6th. Yeah, Henry joining that club as well. Yeah, I go 2 picks before. Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. Those are your 6th-round running backs.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
It is absurd.
And Craig coming in, you're saying any current RB could be the RB1.
That's true. That's a good point.
Most of them. Maybe not Rex Burkhead.
Except for Cam Akers.
Except for Cam Akers. You're right. Any running back.
And I'm going to draft Cam Akers too. So
I figured with all the Seahawks wide receivers I had on my team, that made sense for my first quarterback.
Triple stack. I love it.
Yeah, we got all of that going on. And then I'm going to take a player that maybe gives me a little bit more upside and youth at the quarterback position, a former first-round pick, Jordan Love, to pair with Geno Smith as my 2 QBs on the turn here. I'm actually happy with the quarterbacks that I ended up getting here.
That's not bad at all.
Geno, he finished like top 6 or something like that last season?
And I'm not expecting that again, but...
No, Joey!
To be fair, you did tell him.
I know. It was all reverse psychology, Joey. I'm still on the Cam Akers bandwagon this season. I think he's going to be solid. But
Nate, where do you stand on Cam Akers?
Oh, I try not to stand on people. It seems rude. I don't know, man. I mean, there was so much promise before the Achilles, and he looked basically like he had an Achilles injury last season. I don't love him in this offense because I think that McVay is just going to spread the ball around the running backs. But if there was going to be a lead back in that backfield, it probably will be Cam Akers this year.
Yeah. Joey down here wants to know, does anyone want to know about the town of the college Cam Akers played at?
Oh, yeah.
If you do,
Tallahassee, let me know.
Joey is more than happy to tell you about Tallahassee. Nate,
all good things, right?
Oh, yeah. Except we did a draft of the worst possible places to hold the 2024 NFL draft. Joey had the first overall pick, and he could have picked anything. Like, there were no rules in this draft, and he went with Tallahassee as the worst possible place they could hold the 2024 NFL draft.
Oh, boy.
So, no, he's not a big fan.
Well, that'll happen.
Also, Dustin wants to know, can you boot Joey because he's clearly hacked my queue and stealing my players?
No!
Craig. Nate, now it is time for me to come to you with a question since you're on there. I'm just kidding. Tim, you're excited for A-Chain, not just because he's on the Dolphins, but it seems like a good opportunity, right?
Yeah. I mean, dude's fast as hell, and I think he was built for this offense. So I'm pretty excited to see how he squeezes in this season. I think he's gonna really come into it next season, but I'm excited for some electricity down there. We have the fastest offense. That's just a fact. We have the fastest offense. Like it's insane. I'm so excited for it.
The Dolphins are speed. Also, Jay down here saying until they pick up Dalvin Cook, which I don't think Tim would be too mad about. A-Chain if Dalvin Cook was on the Dolphins.
Right? I'd love that. That'd be sweet. But if that's going to happen, it's going to happen in the next. I think after June 1st is when his contract significantly drops for us. So, yeah, if that happens, I'd be pretty hyped.
Nate grabbing Kenny Pickett there. Steelers second-year starter. Are you a Kenny Pickett believer or just the value of a starting quarterback that's this young at this point?
Well, it's both because I can't believe I'm getting him in the 8th round. That seems absolutely crazy to me. But I do believe in Kenny Pickett. I mean, he made so many strides at the end of last season. Like, I can't wait to see with a full offseason, knowing he's the starter, what he can do in that offense. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth. Then they went out and they got Darnell Washington, which is basically a 6th offensive lineman. I mean, I think that offense has a chance to be the best in the AFC North.
I was sad about the landing spot for Darnell Washington just because I feel like it means a lack of fantasy relevancy, and he's an exciting player to watch.
Sure.
But I think it's a great landing spot team-wise.
Yep.
I agree with you. I'm less optimistic about Pickett. I think maybe I didn't see as much at the end of last season that it's a limited sample size from what I saw. There was a lot of safety from the Steelers in the play calling for him, and I'm curious how much they're going to open it up this year. If the offense stays the same as it was last year, there's a lack of upside for me. But he's young, a starting quarterback, first-round draft capital. It's all the same reasons I took Jordan Love, but we've seen a little bit of success out of Kenny Pickett already.
He's definitely no Jordan Love, that's for sure.
Well, he's got starts under his belt.
Exactly.
Jordan Love, it could be anything, even Kenny Pickett.
We can only hope.
Where do you stand on Jordan Love? Let's say I didn't take Jordan Love there, and both of those guys were sitting there. Would you have taken Kenny Pickett over Jordan Love?
Yeah, I would take Pickett over Love. Jordan Love, we've seen like 3 starts in his career. We have no idea what this kid's going to be. Green Bay believes in him, so that's great. Whatever. I just haven't seen enough to take him in the 8th round.
I agree. If I had to make a bet which one would score more points, I do think it's probably more likely that it's Kenny Pickett. I'm just hoping for some upside. It's a hope and a prayer with Love. It's the mystery box. It's the mystery box and trust in the Packers. And maybe there's some bias of the last 2 quarterbacks the Packers have drafted have turned out pretty well. Nate's back on the clock. We'll see who he follows up that pick with. Also, we got Victor under here saying another full season of Matt Canada. And I'm guessing he's talking about the coach and not a TV show called Matt Canada that I've never heard of.
That's never heard of
superhero. You guys ever watch the show Matt Canada, or do you think he's talking about the Steelers coach?
I'm assuming the Steelers coach.
That would make more sense. That would make more sense. Nate, where'd you go with this last pick?
Christian. With Christian Kirk.
The $20 million man.
That's right.
You worried about the arrival of Calvin Ridley into this offense?
Oh, definitely. That's why I'm okay with him going up in the 8th round.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Ridley took a couple years off, partially because, and you read his Players Tribune piece where they were literally just pumping him full of cortisone before every game, and he kept causing more and more damage to that ankle until he couldn't play anymore. He's had a year and a half to rest. Personal issues are aside him. He's feeling better. And what better offense to get him back in the fold than in Jacksonville, where they're going to throw a lot. We know they're going to throw the ball a lot. And Trevor Lawrence is a damn good quarterback. But that said, getting Kirk in the 9th round, like wide receiver 4, it's sexy. I'll do it every time.
Yeah, I love that pick. And I think because of Ridley coming back, Kirk's going to be a value in drafts this year, dynasty and redraft.
I was considering Kirk at my turn, but I slightly believe in the Steelers, so we'll go with Deontay.
Where did and see Ridley going up in the 6th round, and then Christian Kirk going down in the 9th. Joey, whenever I've asked him this question, each and every time he has said, whichever one goes later, that's the one I like better between Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. And right now, Christian Kirk by 3 rounds, I think I'll take that.
Yep.
I think I'll take that. Ooh, where are we going to go next? So many options.
James Conner all the way in the 9th round, guys. That's crazy.
Are you worried about upside for James Conner this year? Because it does seem like he's been touchdown dependent at times, and that Arizona offense looks so bad on paper. Like it does seem like it's going to be rough for the Cardinals this year.
It's going to be rough for the Cardinals, but it's not going to be rough for James Conner because he's really going to be their offense.
Yeah.
You know, Kyler Murray's out for the first half of the season. Who are they going to roll out at quarterback? Colt McCoy, right? Tyler Huntley. So regardless of who they roll out, they're just going to have to feed James Conner. They did nothing to address running backs in the draft or really in free agency for that matter. So,
yeah. I see Hal down here saying, I'll take both Kirk and Ridley.
Some of those, that middle of the draft board with T-Law falling there, you can make some really fun stacks with the Jags right now. From what I've seen in all these drafts that we've done, you can make some really fun stacks.
How do you guys, I want to know how you guys feel about Tank Bigsby landing in Jacksonville. Does it affect Etienne's value to you at all, or are you thinking it's just not going to hurt him?
For me, it doesn't necessarily affect his value. I think Etienne is tiers above Bigsby talent-wise, and it's a depth play. Etienne's the dude they want on the field. That being said, he's not the largest back, so it could just be a way to keep him healthy. we probably won't see 300 touches from ETN every season.
Do you think there's a chance that Tank Bigsby becomes like the Detroit Lions Jamal Williams type, where he gets all the goal line carries and has like a monster, like 10, 12, 14 touchdown season?
No. I don't think so.
Tim says no.
Out of a rookie, we've never seen that. Not to my knowledge.
Sure.
I don't think that happens right away. Maybe they move towards that. And his name's Tank Bigsby. I don't know. He could be not that big, but I would believe he's obviously going to be the biggest person on the planet because his name is Tank Bigsby.
Right.
Could be just like a double turn.
How that would be very on the nose if Tank Bigsby just had like 200 yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. Wouldn't it? Like, here comes Tank Bigsby.
What is his nickname even going to be, dude? Like, that doesn't even make how do you make a nickname for Tank Bigsby? That's insane.
Yeah, I see the concerns, but I think ETN's role is fairly insulated on this team. He gives them the best chance to win, and it's not a 1A, 1B scenario. Are you a little bit more optimistic for Bigsby or pessimistic about ETN this season?
I don't know. I still haven't really sorted it out yet. I think that Tank's going to get more work than people believe, and I think it's going to hurt Etienne's value a little bit. I just don't know how much. That's the question. And it's a good point from Craig in the chat. Like, Tank could take more of a receiver role because he's a better pass catcher than Etienne, despite the name Tank. Because, names dictate where you end up in life, right? That's why he's a running back. Parents named him Tank. You got to be a running back. I just don't think it's going to be huge the first season. 2024, I might be a little bit more worried depending on how this season goes.
I see. Craig bringing this up. If he does lose that pass catching role, it would affect his value. The other thing about ETN, though, that
he can score in any play, dude.
Jacksonville drafted him because of his big play ability. And to get the most out of a back like ETN, he's got to touch the ball as much as possible, right? Yeah. Like, because any given play could be a 75-yard touchdown to the house. It's about probabilities of that happening. I hope they continue to give him that work, but if they don't, it could go down quickly because he's not the kind of back that's going to look good on limited touches, probably.
Right.
Those big plays make his game. Also, Joey's down here saying, so excited to watch Anthony Richardson sail the ball over the heads of my two Colts receivers in this hypothetical draft that we're not playing out this season. Whew, yeah, I'm excited for that too.
We're all excited for that.
I cannot wait. That's going to be the most exciting watching a player sail a ball 2 feet over all of the receivers' heads. So Scamper said Cartavius Bigsby doesn't have the same pop. Is that his first name? Tank is a nickname?
I kind of like Cartavius. I don't know.
What was the name? Carrington Valentine was a player drafted in the 7th round of this year's draft. That's a name.
That is a name.
That's a beautiful name. You walk in, you command respect. Carrington Valentine. Attorney at love.
Oh boy.
We got Joey down here saying, imagine if I was this funny when I was on the show. I'm having a hard time imagining it, actually. Ooh, I almost went mayor with my last pick. There he goes to Z2 in the 10th round, pairing up with Freiermuth. I have this problem in Dynasty where if I miss out on the top tier of tight ends, I never know when to draft one. I just it's just like when it always feels too early for the next guy.
Well, it's such a dart throw. Once you get past that top tier.
Oh, Simon doesn't have a tight end.
Jawan Johnson was a top 12 tight end last season, right? So.
Yeah. I always say my first Dynasty championship I ever won, I had CJ Uzama in my tight end slot during championship week. You can piece it together. I just got really sick of it. And so in most startup drafts now, I take Travis Kelce very early because that's it's a lot easier than like picking up Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzama and playing matchups every other week.
Just praying that something plays out here.
For the love of God. You just jump from OJ Howard to Taysom Hill to another random tight end that you would start this last year. Will Disley.
Hunter Henry.
You only start Will Disley.
Desperation.
You only start Will Disley in weeks where JL starts Will Disley. If JL starts Will Disley, he scores a touchdown. If JL does not start Will Disley, he does not score a touchdown.
Well, could we just have JL start Will Disley every week for those of us who have him rostered, and then we can just start him with confidence?
It's a good idea. We'll start a league where the whole point is to just have we all draft tight ends except the Will Disley on the board. That way he's the only tight end left. JL has to draft him.
Damn it, Craig. I thought Sam Laporta was going to come back around to me. But alas, he did not.
Your wide receiver core shaping up pretty nicely for waiting. Tyler Lockett in the 11th round. I know he's getting older, but he was great last season, and he should still have that role in that offense while JSN gets used to the NFL.
Well, and this is why you should be okay with waiting on wide receivers, because there's so much deep round value in startups. It's crazy.
The mid-round value at running back is nuts, but then you look here, and it grows fast. Like it dries up, and you're not excited about who you're drafting at all. Wide receiver, I think it's a little bit opposite. I feel weird about the receiver sometimes in those middle rounds. Am I reaching? But you get down here, and every pick seems like a value.
Well, if you look at some of the guys who are still on the board here, I mean, you've got Gabe Davis, which we can debate if we're excited about that or not. We've got Juju, who's in New England. That could be good for him. Could be really good for him. You've still got Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney you've got Donovan People-Jones, Jacoby Myers, Wan'Dale Robinson. These are all guys still on the board going into the 12th round. So
just sitting there,
waiting for a home.
And I am on the clock. God, you're right. I'm just looking at all these wide receivers, and there's so many good options. I don't know who to pick. Maybe this is where. Wait, did they already get drafted? They did. When did? Oh, fruity duck! I'm gonna fight you. Kadarius Toney in the 10th round. I thought I could grab Kadarius Toney right here.
He would have been gone. I would have had him, Simon. No chance.
Damn. Well, there goes my plans. I guess now I just go on auto draft, quit the show, and say see you later because I'm mad. There's absolutely nothing here that I like. I'm upset about everything, and I'll draft David Njoku, I guess. Throw him on the team. That's a good one. Yeah, I think I'm going to grab a couple tight ends here at the end to end my draft since I waited so long. David Njoku, I feel pretty comfortable with his role in the offense. And then I'm going to draft a player earlier that I said I'm not so excited about their spot for fantasy, but I'm going to follow Coop, our friend Coupe Fiasco's strategy of roster talent, start opportunity. And I'm going to draft the talent from this draft that I like, and that's Darnell Washington. To pair with David Njoku. I think in a normal dynasty draft, I probably could have waited a couple more rounds. But since we're only doing 12, I'll take him here to pair with a tight end I feel safe with, and we'll wait till maybe this talent has opportunity. Shout out, Coop.
I took Dulcich purely out of spite.
Yeah, I would have taken Dulcich 100%.
Man, Sean Payton, it just doesn't sound like he likes Dulcich that much, which I think is...
We'll grow on him. It'll be fine.
I'm with you though, Nate. It's thrown some water on the fire. I still love Dulcich. Like the talent's still, but they bring in Adam Troutman. They've got all of these receivers. The reports aren't good coming out. Like, I don't know. What more does he want though? Maybe he's intimidated by the hair.
Maybe
it's got to be.
Are you excited for Troutman? And you're on the clock. So is this a good time to ask you?
No. Adam Troutman's fine. Adam Troutman is a really good blocking tight end, which is something Dulcich and Alberto do not do well. So it makes sense.
We can add another round here if you guys would like to.
Yeah.
Update. Okay. Another round has been added. If you guys are mocking with us, make sure to refresh your page to add that next round. We got time for around 13 in this draft. One more round. Let me bring that down so that we're not looking at that. There we go.
Oh my God.
You guys see that board? There we go. Cool. Sorry about that. We got it back up and working. Also, Swamp down here saying the New Orleans Broncos, coming from our Saints fan. Yeah, are you switching to a Broncos fan with all the pieces moving over there? I don't think so. The problem with refreshing Sleeper is that all of the sounds turn back on. And then in my ear, I just hear people screaming at the top of their lungs. Which app do you think has the most obnoxious notification noises while you're drafting?
I don't know.
I think ESPN wins best because the na as like you're on the clock, just it gets you excited. Like you get a little pumped up to make your pick. Oh, Nate, I cannot hear you. I think you are muted.
I haven't drafted on ESPN since 2019, so I wouldn't remember that sound. Well, because Sleeper's just can't do this on Sleeper, or can't do this on ESPN.
Did you guys the noises thing made me think of it. Did you watch the Chargers schedule release video where they asked, or no, not the Chargers, the Titans, where they asked people on the streets of Nashville to just name the logo of their opponent for that week?
Oh,
it is phenomenal. They're showing the Chargers logo, and the time. Shout out to the editors of that, because the way they just like cut people off after funny answers was great. They showed the Chargers logo, and there's a guy trying to think of it, and the girl just goes, Lightning McQueen, no. They just cut it off straight to the football music right after she screams Lightning McQueen into the camera.
Did you pause it?
Oh man, that's
I don't
amazing.
think so.
No, it's still ticking down.
I know what's going on.
Okay, all right.
Of that. Here we go. Now it should be showing on the screen, updating.
Yep, there we go. Ooh, Tajay Spears in the 13th. That's a risky one.
I struggle with the later round rookie running backs. I know there's value somewhere there, but I generally have trouble identifying it. I like the value of like the older running backs in the later rounds that have a role. I feel like that's a little bit easier to identify, but the upside's definitely more with these younger backs. Upside's definitely higher. You're not a Tajay Spears believer?
I am. I like Tajay Spears, but he's in Tennessee behind Derrick Henry. I think that's a problem. And like you talked about, like draft capital matters. These guys are more likely to get an opportunity if they're drafted higher. And Tajay fell a little bit. Didn't love that.
No. Antonio Gibson. What happened? 13th round. I feel like he was a top 12 dynasty running back like 12 months ago. And now we're sitting here looking in 13th round, but this seems too low for Antonio Gibson.
It's way too low, but I'll take it at value. I love the value for myself. But I think people aren't realizing Washington, again, they haven't addressed the running back position, and they let J.D. McKissick go, who was their primary pass-catching back. He had 110 targets in 2020. And now Gibson can be that guy in this offense. And Sam Howell needs that outlet, that short route outlet, if he's going to succeed. And I think this is the year we see Antonio Gibson actually maybe break out a little bit.
Yeah. Also, we got Swamp down here sniping our friend Dustin, saying, I really wanted Tank Dell. And Swamp wants to say, Tim, you should check what Tank Dell's draft number is.
What is it, 7?
I don't know. We'll find out. What is it, Tim? Huh?
I don't know.
Swamp asked you. Let's see. Where do I go with this last pick? We got one more pick. You know what?
Tom Brady.
Right. Darnell Mooney.
Knew
Welcome to the squad.
Love it.
Man, what a value compared to where I drafted him this time last year in Dynasty Startups. I don't know, the 6th round. I was a little bit too high on Darnell Mooney last year, but it's okay. We learned.
Yeah, I was there with you, man. I was there.
You were with me? I was all in, man. I was like, oh, you guys are fools not drafting Darnell Mooney here. It's a free top 12 wide receiver.
I think I wrote him up as a must-have wide receiver twice for Fantasy Pros last offseason.
Yeah, that checks out. There's a video of me on the Roto Heat YouTube channel. They had a hot take series, and I went in there and loudly and proudly proclaimed that Darnell Mooney would be a top 12 wide receiver last year. That did not happen. That was not even close to happen.
Even if he got 100% of the targets, I don't know if he would have made it. They threw it like 15 times all season.
Also, we got scampers in here commenting on the Titans schedule reveal, saying that doesn't even exist. No, for the Jaguars. And they might watch that video every single day for the rest of their life. If you guys have not seen it, go look it up. It is it's really funny. It's really funny.
I feel like we got a little bit of time here, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But you want to take a look at some of the teams?
Yeah, we can pull up some of these. Whose team do you want to take a peek at?
I don't know. I just asked as a suggestion.
Nate, let's look at how your team ended up panning out after that start. I feel like you waited on wide receiver a little bit, but we talked about it. I'm thrilled with how your wide receiver core panned out.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about it.
You know, I've got the Flowers Bateman stack. Getting Tyler Lockett that late, like that's a win now move, because I know in 2 to 3 seasons he's going to be off my roster more than likely. But this season, and then with getting the Bateman Flowers stack, getting Christian Kirk that late, like I love the way my wide receiver core panned out. I'm really happy.
Is there a point on your team that you're concerned about? I look at your team, and maybe the part that jumps out to me is QB2 might have more question marks than some other teams' QB2s, but it doesn't seem like it has any glaring weaknesses. What's the one spot that maybe you would point out to as the part you're most nervous about for this team?
Oh, definitely my QB2, because if Pickett doesn't pay off, then I'm going to have to figure out a trade and probably give up some draft capital, some draft picks to get someone to replace him. But I'm also kind of thinking I'm going to be okay there. But if there's a position I'm most nervous at, it's definitely quarterback.
Yeah. I'm sitting there. I think you and I are in a similar position. When Jordan Love and Hendon Hooker are sitting there, one of them has to pan out or I'm in trouble. Tim, on the other hand, you are sitting pretty with Patrick Mahomes and Tua Tagovailoa. As long as you're not concerned about Tua's concussion problems, which I'm taking their words at face value at this point with the scrutiny that they should be under with Tua's health. If they're saying he's good to go, they better not be stupid enough to be lying about that at this point. So I'm believing him. Are you concerned at all about his health?
I mean, obviously, I'm concerned as just a fan of him. I don't want him to get hurt at all. But I think I think he's going to be all right. He's taken jiu-jitsu classes. They are, from what I've heard, trying to address some of the offensive line via trades, via free agent acquisitions. So I think they are going to address it here in the next couple of months. Just to make sure everything's all good. But I think the addition of, a speedster running back, if we get Dalvin Cook, I think those are signs that they want to get the ball out of his hand as quickly as they can. So that way he doesn't have to worry about that. So, I'm excited for him. I like this. Dude, Michael Thomas, I'm always going to pick Michael Thomas until he retires. Every single time I see him on the board, I'm going to do it.
In the 12th round, what's the risk for the potential upside of a player like Michael Thomas?
Exactly.
And that's why I got Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. I picked a bunch of Saints, so we'll see how that goes. But Kamara's suspended. I feel pretty happy with this draft. I feel pretty good.
Or the Saints, a.k.a. the St. Louis Rams. Scamper says, I'm uncomfortable with Tim being a professional.
Well, we all are a little bit.
Also, Joey in here saying some really important analysis. I like that I was able to spell butthole down the draft board with the first letter of each of my drafted players' names.
What?
Gotcha. No, he didn't. He said you looked, didn't you? You went to go check to see if it did.
I did.
You got me as well, Joey. I immediately checked right there. Also, Hal wants to know, where's Tua going in best ball? I would imagine, I don't have best ball ADP pulled up right now, but probably around the top 12 quarterbacks, probably in that range with a little bit ahead of like Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, but a little bit behind the likes of, I don't know, who's in that range? Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields.
Dude was on pace to be the QB1. I don't care what you say. He was killing it.
He was.
If he stays on the field, forget about it, man. He could be the QB1 this year.
Yep.
People forget how real Tank for Tua was. The talent didn't go away. He was injured, came back to a weird team, and now things might be rolling. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, this could just be the start of something crazy if the injury stuff is behind him and he's ready to go. I'm with you guys. Well, we will find out in a couple of months if this is the start of Tua's Hall of Fame career. But for now, it's time to start the weekend. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming in and hanging out with us. Before we go, if you have not already followed our guest, Nate, please go remedy that right this instant. He's on Twitter at Nate Polvogt. Not only is he one of our great friends and a great analyst, he's a great person as well. You want to make sure you're following him. After you do that, if you guys haven't had enough fantasy football today, we got some good news, because tonight at 7 Eastern, you can join Felix Sharp and Chris Moxley to dish out some college football futures picks on the Campus to Canton show. So tune in 7 p.m. Eastern right here on Better Sports Network with Felix Sharp and Chris Moxley. It's going to be a good time. Until Monday, though, that is it for the FYF crew. We will see you guys bright and early at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much for joining us, Nate. Thank you so much for hosting, Tim. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for mock drafting with us. Until Monday, enjoy your weekend. Adios, everyone.
Ooh. Bye, everybody.